for people to get to that level of, animosity and hate towards someone for not kind of complying. It's really scary that it got to that state.
I'm Jasmine Lane, and this is Over Opinionated. You may be very familiar with a gentleman by the name of Kyle Kemper, because he is indeed Justin Trudeau, Canada's last prime minister's half-brother. Now, Kyle has been a huge advocate for personal freedoms, and he has openly expressed views that are completely against what the mainstream narrative is, including those that were inflicted and implemented on the Canadian people under the watch of his half-brother, Justin Trudeau. Now, despite there being a lot of rumors, Kyle Kemper is not at all related to Mark Carney, but that definitely does not stop us from talking an awful lot about him, the future of Canada, and what the end goal is here. Kyle has worked alongside RFK Jr. in Make America Healthy Again, and has been very actively involved as a lobbyist and an advocate, especially in the United States as of late. It was an absolute pleasure to have the first of many, I presume, conversations with Kyle, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. Be sure to subscribe, comment, like the video, and give us a follow on other social media platforms as well. Without further ado, here's Kyle Kemper.
But I feel like we only have 34 days which will determine the future of Canada.
Yeah, there is it's very fascinating, everything that's going on here right now. I am very, very curious for you. There's often been rumors that you have relation to Mark Carney, but I have looked at those family trees and determined that that is a lie. But nonetheless, you're involved with so many brilliant people, and I obviously you're well aware of what's going on. What exactly do you think is the end goal in Canada right now in terms of people like Mark Carney, who is this global central banker, elitist, out of touch man? Like, why on earth would he have been installed, and what do you think that the end goal is?
Well, it feels like I can't speak exactly into what the ultimate end goal. I mean, it seems like the ultimate theorized, one world government, new world order agenda.
And build a new world order.
The world is being fundamentally transformed. The old rules-based order is finished, but a new system is not yet emerged. We can and must change.
Is to have, the world split into regions and have people split up into different castes or classes, serving the interests of really the few, I would say. It's almost like the Huxleyan Brave New World thesis or theory on where it goes. But really it's like ultimately it's not an of the people, by the people, for the people kind of mantra. It's a view that the few can better decide versus the people. And I saw that firsthand with Justin and with his crew too. There was wasn't a lot of respect for for the will of the people, and also underneath this some call it a communist, some call it Marxist, some call it socialist frameworks. They justify doing terrible things, as long as it's for the greater good. And, we've seen that a number of times. So, but right now it's like we got Mark Carney, and he is like a central bank governor of Canada and England, now coming back. For a long time, it was talked about that he would be potentially the successor. Well, guess what? They smashed that through. And it's interesting to see the Liberal Party is, well, at least the corporate communications arm of the Liberal Party is strong right now. These guys know what they're doing. They know how to roll out propaganda like nothing else. And them bringing in Mike Myers and even queuing up Saturday Night Live for this whole elbows up thing.
The most embarrassing thing of all time. elbows up, everybody. It's like, what is this?
No, and it's like even that. It's like you get a penalty in hockey for elbowing. It's not like it's like we're playing dirty. That combined with like there's this proclaimed emergency that's taking place as a result of this trade war that's going on. And I feel like they're just taking advantage of this crisis. We've seen that
Oh,
happen.
yeah.
I think David Eby in British Columbia is taking advantage of it. They're using it as a way to simplify and make this election about Trump and like who's going to be the, who's going to be the person that hates Trump the most. Therefore, we should all vote for him. Combined with just this notion that there's like so much Trump hate, and that's projected by like the Canadian mainstream media as like as something, and I think it's probably it's probably true, but there's a lot of people that that just don't believe in it and are probably sick and tired of the
it, I
bullshit.
always I always think it's quite funny because I love the United States. I've done business there plenty of times. Great people, as far as I can tell, who narrowly avoided exactly what it is that Canada is kind of on track to become here. It feels, at least. And the amount of times that I'll post a video saying something where I'm even just pointing out a hypocrisy between the rhetoric that's going around and just how silly and stupid it is. It's like every Canadian that responds to it, outside of the ones who support it and get it, will come at me saying that, oh, you're not from Canadian. They are from Canada. Sorry. They just almost immediately assume that because I'm not on board with elbows up Canada, that must mean I'm an American. Like, it's just so many people are so disillusioned into thinking that it really is the entire country. But in reality, the way that I see it, and it's something that I've been studying quite a lot lately, it really is just a psyop. It is a mass psychological operation, and it's like step for step following these patterns. Even the saying elbows up, and how quickly that has it's infiltrated everyday conversations. Like, that is absolutely how
No, yeah.
psyops work,
I
without a
mean,
doubt, and people don't see it, and it's just so frustrating.
and the liberals, and I'll say probably the conservatives, and a little bit of the PPC too. It's like there's a lot of this psyop behavior, and again, out of nowhere it comes. Plus, like the power of their repeater nodes, combined with like a lot of different accounts, and and then the way the algorithms work. I'm really like I'm frankly like I don't like going on X right now. I mean, you do like it, but I don't like it too because it's been so heavily like all of a sudden now I'm in Canadian politics land and it's like fuck.
Yeah.
And at this point too, but it's like I care a lot about this. And earlier today I was like, dude, Pierre, like call Max, like work out a deal, like figure your shit out, because Bernier coming down to to go talk to Patrick Bet David and then go talk to Alex Jones and like railing on Pierre Polyev, like that's not a good look. Like the PPC doesn't have a chance to make too much. Like, you might be able to win a little bit, but if you just look at the numbers from the last time, it's like there were like 20 seats that were lost as a result of the vote splitting that took place
Yeah.
there. And if you look at America, like there's only two parties here, really clearly. Only two parties. There's a bunch more smaller ones. In Canada, there's only really two parties as well. And there are some bigger small parties, but there's only been two parties that have ever held government in Canada, the Liberals and the Conservatives, and that doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon. So it's like, for all the PPC supporters, the best thing you can do is honestly engage, get involved with this CPC and start like changing it. Like, energy goes where energy flows. If you're going to spend time like fighting against those who are most closely aligned philosophically, values wise, because of like these kind of manufactured points of division, well, guess what, you're going to be divided. The question right now is, how do we unite the right against like the globalist takeover that continues, which Justin and the liberals really pushed hard, and now you've got like, you know, the ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing, like Mark Carney. This guy doesn't give a fuck about you or any
No,
Canadians.
God, no. That is one thing that is so disappointing. And, you know, I'm sure we'll never know all of the details of his relationship with Mr. Trudeau, but something there is so very wrong. And it's perpetuated by largely mainstream media. And in Canada, as I'm sure you're aware, there are so many bills that have been passed in very recent years, which is leading me to my next question, that have really isolated and silenced people such as you and I, who are just saying it exactly as we see it. We're not buying into the BS. What is kind of your perspective and take on the fact that those bills have been introduced in the last decade, and why they were introduced, and kind of how much that has affected Canadians as a whole in terms of just thinking critically and knowing what's real or not?
I think these are kind of the natural tactics that, you know, any authoritarian system will apply. Is one of the things you want to shut down is free speech and dissent, you know, and especially like hard dissenting opinions. Like when you call out the fact that, like, you know, the government actively fearmongered and killed people in Canada during COVID, via remdesivir, via isolation, via over testing, via, like, you know, many different things, and then, you know, followed up with a, in my view, you know, it's tantamount to genocide campaign that took place, without informed consent, forced on the population, and then, you know, when people naturally rise up, whoa, you know, you want to kind of stop that.
It is honestly shocking to me how little people are paying attention, and also how programmed they are to come after you and to cancel you, shame you,
Mm-hmm.
smear your name, drag you through the mud, light your Tesla on fire. Like what? Like there's so many, like it's crazy. But then we're the radicals by saying that doesn't make sense. Here's what does make sense though. You know, I have to ask, and I'm sorry because I'm sure you're very sick of talking about it. But even in terms of your brother and stuff, you know, were you, when he had announced that he was going to be resigning, like what was your initial thoughts there, or did you kind of already have an idea of what was likely going to replace that?
So I'll like answer this with a question to you: is, do you think he was in charge of his resigning?
No,
Exactly. So like the
not at all.
time was that this was in the grand theater of, that is, the Liberal Party as part of the New World Order corporate cabal. Like this was their timing. It's like Trump came in, okay, let's get Justin out, let's bring Carney in. We've got this trade war. He can kind of like get out before it. Like, you know, he is not gonna. I'm pretty sure he's not running again. Um,
No.
I think he's done. But I don't just see, the thing is, I haven't believed that Justin has been a man of free will. Like, you know, one of the things is like we champion for freedom, and Justin has been one that has been, you know, trapped, within the system for, you know, a pretty long time. And fortunately, it seems like, you know, he might be kind of out of it now, but I wouldn't say so because.
It's
Anyways.
not usually how those things work. So,
No, but like his time in that role is over. It's like, you know, they're on to the sequel and he's not in it. So
mhm.
like, you know, his shot in the limelight as, you know, being one of the main figures and one of the main energy vacuums. It's like, how quickly did they get rid of like the fuck Trudeau flags and come out with the fuck Carney flags? Like why? And they'll keep that because that's like that really hate filled energy too. And they're going to keep, you know, try and keep that really divided game. But again, like, you know, we need to unite, and we need to focus on what it is that we want. Like, what is it you want? And like, you know, I think Pierre is doing a good job around that. And I Max Burney and the PPC never really, for me at least, never like I saw any like policy from them. Like, yes,
Yeah.
Max, like we're gonna get rid of income tax in Canada. Like, you know, it's gone. we're gonna implement referendum voting so that people will be able to, like, if you've got an issue, go get 100,000 signatures, and the whole country will vote on it. Like, nope, never kind of saw anything like that. But I will say, Pierre Poilievre did talk about crypto and blockchain and how that tech could be used to enable referendums in Canada. So, I like that.
I'm wondering for you, when it comes to all of this rhetoric as well about Donald Trump, a 51st state, you're not here in Canada. You're not embraced by the same things that the media is pushing out to absolutely everybody. And you're also involved with some really awesome people on the Trump side and Trump campaign and all that stuff. And so what do you think it is that Donald Trump is trying to do? My assumption of it is I honestly believe that he's trying his darndest to just get rid of the globalists, potentially by absorbing us. But maybe I'm way off. I don't know. What is your perspective from the conversations you have and your own train of thought?
Yeah, I mean, in the long tail, like, I feel like it's, part of the big plan was to try and get the whole world into nice little blocks. And, the North American Union was always something that, personally I was very leery of, and was kind of like, against when it was Harper and Calderon and Bush who were discussing that back in, like, the 2008 timeframe. But now, given how messed up everything is, honestly, that is not like, we have to upgrade the systems across, like, all the different countries. And a lot of them are really, really broken. And, there's no just fixing it. Like, at a certain point, it's like, if your house has, broken foundation, a leaky roof, mold in the walls, like holes in the floors, like, you can't fix it. You tear it down and you rebuild. And it's like, it feels like, with Canada, like, it has become so centralized and so corrupt, and has become so far from we the people, by the people, for the people, and has become of the party, by the party, and for the party, and so centralized and so secretive and so corrupt that it's the point now where it's like, it needs to be fixed. And this is why I think there's, like, the need for a Doge in Canada
Yeah.
can, like, please, like, it can't happen soon enough, because there is so much waste in the Canadian system, and a lot of it's in plain sight too. And that can be addressed. And Canada's been punching down on itself for a long time, driving away the innovators, driving away the creators, driving away the artists. Anybody who, like, succeeds, like, the power structure in Canada is a lot of, like, old money and old money families, like, continue to hold on to a lot of the power. And they don't really care that there isn't that much innovation going on in Canada, because guess what?
Yeah.
Innovation brings new money, brings new wealth, brings new power players. So, like, create the conditions that they get them out of here. And, like, they've done pretty well on that. And a lot of the innovators have all left, and they've taken their money with them. You do well in Canada, you generally leave Canada because the tax system is so high. So, one of my, like, real beliefs is that if we can fix the tax system, we can eliminate income tax, eliminate capital gains, be more like an island nation in terms of attracting capital. It will open the floodgates for investment and spending and economic activity in Canada. And so, I really believe in that, and also, like, believe in the power of the people and putting out the challenges and having open, honest discourse around some of the tough subjects. And unfortunately, this political theater that we're dealing in right now, there's no room for actual discussion of squat. And the fact that Pierre Poilievre won't go on a Tucker Carlson or a Joe Rogan and engage in a long form discussion, that's kind of questionable too. But I also understand that, Canada is very risk aware, and, like, would prefer to not take the risk or not give yourself the chance of stepping in the waters. And Pierre has been playing a very calculated political game for a very, very long time. So, he's not a Trump, magnanimous character that 51st state, let's go.
Yeah.
Of which many Canadians I think would be totally down.
I know I would be. My lord, if I could have like a cheap flight out to Florida, have some like more competitive air travel, I'm in. Give it to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot, and it's like and from Trump's point of view, it could just be also a bargaining position. Like you just start with like that really tough, like that really bombastic statement, and then we'll kind of pull it in. Now the issue is like what he did was during the trucker rally, like and following like the Freedom Convoy, the flag became like this symbol of like, oh no, like
It was
like
wild. Yeah.
flag bad. And now all of a sudden, like because of Trump saying this, it's like flag good. And it's like, they're just simplifying down to this bread and circuses rhetoric. And like you've got literally like, a Hollywood actor and Mike Myers like coming in and like playing this. And it's also staged. And Mark
Well,
Carney is an actor. Like, but he's like a really professional. The thing is, he is not like he has never had this type of role before, and it'll be interesting to see, how he's able to navigate this, and it will be interesting to see, like, can he be like the Kamala type character, the installed and fail, like they put up the whole theater around it. Will Canadians see through the bullshit? And that's why it's like over the next 34 days, personally, I'm committed towards like helping unite the right, and I don't even mean like on the necessarily on the spectrum here. It's like because the Liberal Party, like this is not like their policies are not like traditional liberal.
no,
This
not
is
at
this
all.
neoliberal, neo-fascist, neo-Nazi kind of style party, and it's very
Well, I
dangerous.
mean,
We must stop
quite
it.
literally, you have Mark Carney who's proposing the same types of economic policies that neoliberals tried and it's failed repeatedly since, before the 1970s, trying to sell that off. But it's people don't do enough research. They don't care, which is why I'm very glad that we got to hop on this quick chat today. We will definitely have to do this again if you're down, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down, and look, and I think we're in like like I just got off a big time campaign, like the presidentials with Kennedy, and ultimately like Bobby made the decision. I'm going to join with Trump and help take a role in basically he's now the president of health, and we're going to make America healthy again. And it took a lot of selflessness in order to do that. Like Max Bernier, you got to learn and do that too. He started the PPC when he got shafted in 2017 by the conservatives. Like it was what they did to them, what they did.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the best position. Kevin O'Leary also got shafted by the machine too, which was kind of interesting as well. But at a certain point, it's time to like in my opinion, and I will say, like, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff within that conservative platform that isn't really that conservative, and that's
Mm-hmm.
like but it's recognizing right now it's a two-party system, and short of like a revolution, to just don't see like happening. The best thing that can do is you know a major win for the conservatives through unity and through people like coming together, recognizing, hey, let's work this. We don't know what the future necessarily holds, and if we can come together and show support and see hopefully maybe a conservative majority as a result, then we can hopefully get to work and hopefully start listening to the people.
Thank you so much. We'll definitely talk again. Appreciate you for coming
Thanks,
on.
Jasmine. Yeah, it was really nice to talk to you, and keep up the good work. All right.
Thank you so much. Take
Okay.
care.
Bye.